Thanks for joining me today, team. I'm pretty excited. I love this topic. I love nutrition. I think it's one of well, clearly it's a key pillar or element of any good wellness regime. And I think it's really tough to navigate for people. Um, Literally calories in, calories out. That's what we hear all the time. And I'll give a few things. Like today, I want to give really some foundation on how I kind of approach and think about nutrition. And what I find is most people don't have that foundation. So they don't know what information to process as information that they should take on board or information that they shouldn't or that isn't relevant to them because they're kind of just shooting in the breeze on whatever comes through. So let's try to start to build some of those foundational pieces for the nutrition part of your wellness regimen. And I hope today can help serve that for you and anybody that listens to this on the recording. Like if people could, like if I could broad advice, like some takeaways, it should be an easy regime that you can repeat, that nourishes your body, that also gives you the perceived balance that you genuinely need for your individual circumstances, and then that forms a positive relationship with food. That's it. They're the five sort of takeaways. And I would say 9 out of 10 people that are approaching their nutrition don't even hit half of those. So I want people to start thinking about food quality and what it does to the body rather than just the quantity. And today we'll kind of deep dive into that a little bit. So I'll start with a bit of a story about me. I'm 34 at the moment, but back when I was 17, believe it or not, I used to work construction. So between the years of 17 and 19, I actually gained 27 kilos, which, yeah, I'll try to find some photos if I can. They're interesting. Let's just go with that. But if I think back to then, God, I was so like I was sad all the time. Like if I actually retrospectively think about it, like I was definitely going through some form of depression for sure. Like if I actually close my eyes, I can still think of like the lack of confidence I had. And like I was a bit of a social recluse at the time. Like I just desperately didn't want to be seen by anybody because I was so self-conscious with how I looked, but probably more importantly with just like how I felt about myself. And that's kind of what got me into the journey, actually. Once it took me 12 months to drop that weight. And lo and behold, what was the first thing I did? I started counting calories. So I went through that whole experience. It worked only to the capacity that it started me on the track of becoming more healthy, but it also gave me an eating disorder. So again, not a huge win in the end. And yeah, like you name it, I've kind of done it. So the idea of today is to try to help people learn from my mistakes, but it's a pretty common one considering it's touted so much in the media as a really helpful approach. And I will give some benefits to it today, but I want to talk about some potential solutions that'll be much easier and less restrictive for people. So let's deep dive into the calories and hopefully give you all some extra tools for your health and wellness tool belt, which is kind of how I like to discuss these things. Because the more tools we have to our tool belt, the easier it is to navigate our health and wellness. And I really feel for everyone out there because it's a super challenging endeavor, just in general. Because if it was easier, people would be far healthier. Like, and it's just not that easy. So I really want to get into a deep dive, but come up with some really simple solutions because the simpler things are, the easier it is for people to do in the long term. So, as has been said, calories in, calories out. It's the hot statement at the moment. It's probably up there with like detoxification and a few other things. Holistic, it's another good one. But all the science people out there will be like, well, it's just thermodynamics, right? It's a calorie is a calorie. And there's some merit to that. I get that. But as we eat food, it has to go through a whole bunch of our metabolic processes. It has to interact with the gut microbiome. There's a genetic side to what's going on. There's hormonal aspects to it. There's brain chemistry, and your food is interacting with all of that all the time. which is one of the real negatives that a calorie is just a calorie. It's like in a laboratory circumstance, yes, because all you get from a calorie is it's the amount of energy required to increase the temperature of 1 liter of water by a degree Celsius. That's it. So under laboratory circumstances, yes, but what actually happens in the body can be completely different, and the cascade that comes from that has different consequences. So like if we had broccoli here and we had, soft drink or a can of Coke there, and they both have 1,000 calories in them, they're going to have completely different reactions in the body and different consequences from ingesting them and different consequences because of that. So today we want to kind of get into how that happens and why just having a number in terms of calories can be really detrimental. I'll give you, so my coaching focuses as a coach, and this is good to know from any practitioner because it'll give you their inherent bias to why they want something to work in a way that they're giving it. And mine's really simple. I'm all about long-term coaching. And by that, I mean 12 months onwards. The reason I choose 12 months onwards is because through the years, I've found that that is a long enough time frame for people to make a lifestyle adjustment and not just have a band-aid solution. And then this helps them stop riding the roller coaster of health and wellness. And that's really important to me because I don't find a program successful unless it's successful over time, not 6 weeks, not 12 weeks, not 3 months, because often we see really short, sharp progress, and then the progress ends and they go down, 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 down until they hit rock bottom again. And then they start riding this roller coaster. And we're sick of seeing that with people. And the reason that they do that is they do far too restrictive or high output programs or nutritional principles that aren't sustainable, and it doesn't teach them any tools. And then they have the rebound on top of that. So we want people to stop riding the roller coaster. I want people to have a really positive relationship with any health and wellness modality. But for today's topic, it'll be nutrition and nutrients and nourishment, because I truly believe that if you have a positive relationship with the modality, you will be able to do it more often. And when you do it more often, that leads to consistency. And when you do something consistently that fits into your lifestyle that's positive, it means you can make that lifestyle adjustment for good, which means, again, you stop riding the roller coaster. And then I'd love to educate people on any of the topics, any of the tools, any solutions, because that gives people the foundation in their health and wellness, which then allows them to make more informed decisions about their health. That's kind of it. If you can tick those boxes, you'll kind of set yourself up for success and not constantly be looking for short-term quick fixes and band-aid solutions. And that helps you stop riding the roller coaster of health and wellness. So, and that's important to know because you want to know the frame of mind from where I'm coming from, so you can actually see if it's applicable to what you want out of your health and wellness. So, like, are there any benefits? Let's have a look. And like, when do I actually use calorie counting? Because believe it or not, I actually use it from time to time. It's for a very specific person. And number one would be, I need to know if it's going to have a negative impact on someone's relationship with food or nutrition or their health or their mental health, any of them. Because if I believe it is, or it's happened in the past, it's just a no-go zone, because it needs to be across the board in terms of health. You need to start helping people formulate positive relationships. It's essential for themselves and their own health, but for the longevity of the program, so they can get long, sustained results. A couple of things I do like about it, if it's necessary for somebody, is it can help identify some eating patterns. So again, just brings awareness, and it can be a good tool for that. There are other tools that you could use as well, though. So hence, but I want to give both sides of the argument. And while calorie counting is quite inaccurate, some of the calorie numbers you'll get, they can be up to 30% discrepancies in them, which is massive. But it can give you an approximate baseline, again, just to give somebody a general understanding of where they're at. One of the things I do like is that it can bring a good awareness to hidden calories or calorie dense foods. We're talking things that people don't normally think too much about, but are normally in their diet. So we're talking condiments, we're talking dressings, we're talking dips, we're talking, nuts, which, don't get me wrong, are great. It's super calorie dense. We're talking different spreads. We're talking juices. To be honest, we're talking liquid calories a lot. Juice, beer, wine, sugary beverages, all of those. And, giving people an understanding to be cocktails, one of the worst, by the way, good for people to get an understanding of just how dense those things are so that they can understand the percentage of potentially their day and whether it's actually serving them or not, just so they can make more informed choices. And this isn't calorie counting specifically, but if you get people to track their food or just how they eat, they tend to be more accountable and they'll start to make, smarter choices or more informed choices towards their goals. So they're kind of some of the loose benefits we could go with. And for some people, they'll actually work tremendously well. But for, 9 out of 10 people, it's not the direction I take them down. So let's have a look at the short-term fix. This is kind of the loose journey that most people go on. They'll calorie count, okay? They'll lose, and it's pretty restrictive normally, a low-calorie diet that they're counting. It'll be a short-term fix. They'll lose a bit of weight. They'll be like, hooray, this is pretty good. But it's normally unsustainable for people over 365 days, let alone their whole life. So it doesn't support healthy living. It's usually quite unbalanced for them. And eventually it leads to stress, guilt, confusion, and they're pretty overwhelmed with food and how to navigate their food. And this stress, guilt, and overwhelm tends to make people stop. They'll stop what they're doing and they normally rebound back. And they rebound back because calorie counting hasn't taught them the tools on how to navigate their nutritional journey. It's made every food a number rather than how does it actually impact me and my health and how I feel energetically and how does it serve me towards my goals, which leaves them with not much to go off once they stop doing that process. But they can't continue doing that process because it's too restrictive or it's too overwhelming, and it's not actually positively helping them with their journey with nutrition. By the time they've rebounded and they gain back the weight, normally their metabolisms drop because they've just been calorie counting, and we'll get into why that's not ideal in a second. So they would have dropped their muscle mass normally, and then they regain the fat. So they may be the same weight or heavier than they were than when they started the program, but their composition is different. More fat, less muscle, lower metabolism, even harder to lose the weight the second time. But more importantly, there's a bit of an emotional toil on them. They're really disheartened that they've rebounded, which means they're less likely to try again. And when they do try again, they normally correlate restrictive calorie counting as the only way to lose weight as well as. So there's a whole bunch of cascades that we don't love. So I actually think calorie counting can move people further from their goals in the long term, if we're talking 12 to 18 months. Hence, we tend not to use it as a practice often. So we were talking about, and Vince actually brought this up, there's a whole bunch of cascades that happen in the body, right? Like your gut microbiome, your brain chemistry, your hormonal regulation. So that's why it's really important to come up with a quality-based nutrition approach rather than just a quantity. And if I could only choose one or the other, I'd choose quality every day of the week. So let's actually delve into why I don't recommend calorie counting as my number one tool in terms of nutrition. It's just not practical, is one of the key starting points. It's really time consuming, or can be, and it doesn't lead to long-term sustainable habits. So let's get through a couple of things. Most of the time when you're in an eating situation, it's kind of just not possible to track anyway. Like, are you using measuring cups? Is what's actually in the dish? Are you out? Are you with a friend? Are you at their house? Like, that's a really tough way to try and navigate your food every day. It's really cumbersome and it kind of becomes impossible to keep up with. Secondary, which is actually worse, I think, is people tend to avoid the social situations, for whether they don't want to talk about what they're doing, whether it's the chat that'll happen if they are bringing that up, and that becomes quite a tough conversation to have with friends and family, which leaves everyone feeling frustrated, and they'll either neglect their food or they'll stop doing social outings, and neither of those are a winner in my book, and it just leads to unsustainable eating habits. Number two is it overlooks nutritional value. So calories don't tell you how nutritious a food item is. It gives you one measure and one measure only. So the overemphasis on quantity over quality, right? Like, it leads to people to prioritize low calorie diets that are tend to be nutritionally poor, over nutritionally dense options. And often this leads to like lowering or deficiencies in vitamins, minerals, and other micronutrients that are really essential for health and well-being. And you'll normally have an imbalance in your macronutrients. So we're talking your proteins, your fats, and your carbohydrates here, with insufficiencies in things like fiber and essential fatty acids, which are all really important for optimizing your health. And to be honest, they're actually really important for energy, for reducing stress, for digestion. And if you have body composition goals, they're just as essential for that. The big one, and this is the one realistically, my number one, is it can lead to disordered eating. So, and there's a whole bunch of ways that it does this, right? So let's actually just get some examples. Like and most people have been through a few of these: yo-yo dieting. If you're trying to make up for bad foods by, over exercising and burning it off, if you skip meals regularly, if you've got anxiety about eating certain foods, if you have a really rigid nutritional program that has zero flexibility, if you get extreme feelings of guilt or shame after eating certain foods, if you really obsess over body weight or body image, if you feel out of control with your food, these are all just standard, slightly negative thought processes around people's nutritional journeys. And this is probably the biggest one. And this was me. I think I've ticked off almost every single one of those, if I'm being honest with you. It took me a long time to reincorporate a lot of those things back into my life. It really hits hard because it teaches that you need to restrict yourself or your diet in order to reach a certain goal, whatever that goal may be. And often it's just weight loss and body image, but it can be a whole bunch of things. And the way that rewires people's thinking around food and nutrition just doesn't sit well with us. And it's not even the truth either. The stats don't even back it up. So if we can incorporate better nutritional practices, we can sort of rewire how people approach their food and really set them up for success, not just through nourishment of the body, but through the positive reinforcement through the brain and the positive impact that will also have to themselves and their mental health. And that's probably the biggest reason we steer clear of it, especially because there's better options. The other one is you'll likely regain it. And we kind of just went through that before with the rebound effect of what happens, because you're often not left with a lot of tools outside of just a number on a food, rather than understanding how to actually comprise your food and your plate and your daily intake against your goals and your well-being. And that is a little trickier, but there are really easy tools that help. And then unfortunately you get the what I was talking about before is the metabolic adaptation. So the body adapts to changes in calorie intake, normally by slowing the metabolism down. And people just keep cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting to get a little bit of weight loss. And this just undermines your weight management efforts, because not only do you lose weight, you'll lose a lot of muscle mass out of that weight, which reduces your metabolic output, which means your metabolism slows, and then you have to constantly continue to slow down, which means you undernourish your body further with less energy, which is really, really tough. All right. That was all there's more negatives, but they're sort of the key overlying ones that I kind of think about when I'm talking calories with people. But the best part is there's really easy solutions. So you don't have to track on an app. You don't have to look at a thing that you want to eat and be like, is that 200 or 300? Like it's irrelevant in the long run. It's not going to serve you very well. So I've kind of got a couple of things. It's like, in terms of nutrition, it's always quality over quantity. So what does that mean? I mean, the more whole foods your diet is and the least processed it is, the better your food will be, or the better your nutrition will be, and the better you'll feel, and the quicker and the better your results will be, and the more sustainable the results will be while you're going. So we're talking nutrient-dense foods with, that are high in vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. I would say to eat frequently, contrary to popular belief, and in another level up, we'll do fasting. You want to speed up that metabolism, and
You want to feed your body with good nutrition, not just calories and energy, but vitamins and minerals. And we're talking about the internal cascade that happens from these nutrients. They are literally information for your body to do processes. That's what a vitamin and mineral does. It either acts as a key function in the body or a catalyst to a function, or it helps a key enzyme do its task. It is a building block of hormones and neurotransmitters that they help to do functions within the actual cells. They're really important. So eating frequently helps your body do those things more often, but it also helps speed up your metabolism. So if someone's here for some more weight loss type goals, it ticks both boxes. What we actually want to do with people, instead of calorie counting, we just learn portion hand sizes, which I've got a sheet that I'll show you in a second. It's not as specific, but the best part is we've done enough of both to realize that hand portion sizes will get you 80% of what we need in terms of your calorie targets and your macronutrients for the day. 80% is all you need. 80% is people living their best life with optimal results in a really easy fashion that is positive, and they're actually learning a tool that they can implement at any time. The other one we've touched on is a positive relationship, right? So we need to find, how do we enjoy our nutrition and what is the balance that I actually need? Some people need a little bit of sweets, some people enjoy coffee, some people like a bit of cake. I don't mind what it is. It's not that some things are generally, healthier or more nutritious for you than others, but some things just kind of feed the soul a little bit and just make you feel happy. So it's about learning how to implement things into your food and your nutrition in a balanced way that is still serving your goals and your health outcomes without the guilt and the shame and the overwhelm that often comes with it. And then I like to actually most people kind of don't think about much really, but I want people to monitor how they feel. How do I feel digestively? How do I feel energetically? How do I feel fatigue wise? And you can do it daily. You can do it after meals. You can do just the crash points during your day. There's a whole bunch of factors that we can touch base on, but all of those will significantly help you assess the food that you're eating and just what kind of benefit it's having for you. Any questions from anybody that's on today? Might be sitting okay.
Not so much. Oh, hang on. Oh, go, Ellen.
Oh, sure. Sam, I'm sorry if this question is a little too intricate, but what would you recommend, like for personality types where some of that those arbitrary numbers have just kind of penetrated in terms of calorie tracking or just sort of random numbers around overall calorie goals for the day?
Mm-hmm.
What would be some tips to start to unwind some of that thinking, like any kind of primary tools there?
Yeah, like I've got these. I think this answers your question. Let me share screen because these are two tools that I love. Like this one here, one of the easiest tools in terms of process versus whole foods. I like people just to kind of track what they eat. They can just write them down. It doesn't have to be too specific. And then at the end of the day or the end of the week, or we can potentially do both, we have this lovely chart from Precision Nutrition, and it'll go through exactly what it is. You can kind of green some foods, and then you can actually green, yellow, and red certain foods, and it'll give people a really good understanding of the percentage of intake that they're getting from each column. And it's just that what we want to then do is go, great, now let's have a conversation around how did you feel throughout the week? Did it serve your goals, whatever your goals may be? And what's our process to go from here to where you want to be potentially? And that can be quicker or longer depending on the person. Like realistically, there's no rush for these things. And we can incrementally make some small changes to set people up for success. And it won't be as easy as just say, eat more green or, realistically, I would like as much of someone's diet to be as green as possible. But there's always going to be elements of the other too. I just want people to have a clear understanding what the others are in there for. And if they're just for good fun, what have we got here? We got some donuts here or some chips. Great. Like, is eating them every day going to serve your overall health goals? Probably not. But if you're having them, every often when a social scenario pops up that you really enjoy, then great. And if you are happy with that and it fits into whatever the overall plan is, then I'm wrapped for people. And hopefully they do it, enjoy it, and they're guilt-free about it. And then this will just allow us to have a really simple, just some data, because data just helps drive decisions for people. And all we want to do is give them the awareness to be informed so that they can start to help make the decisions. And there'll be a whole bunch of roadblocks that get in the way from just, everyone thinks it's simple, but there's a whole bunch of intricacies on trying to help somebody with their nutrition. Like, what is their home life like? What does their partner like to do? Do they have kids? What's their work scenario? Like, how social are they? Can they cook? Do they enjoy cooking? Does it stress them out? Great. Then we can start to debunk some of those with actual tools so that they can then help along their journey get to where they need to be. The other one that I would show people is this one. We use it a lot in here. It's the precision nutrition hand portioning. And again, this will get you 80% of the way there, and all you need is 80. And the reason we love it is because you have your hands on you, and they will give you a really good guideline on the macronutrient composition of what you should be doing. So one of the things that a calorie is just a calorie, but you can have, let's say it's 2,000 calories, a standard sort of calorie for a person. If that's all just processed carbohydrates, that will get digested really quickly. It'll send, a whole bunch of signals to your brain. It'll really dysregulate your blood sugar levels. So you'll have a really high insulin, and there'll be a whole hormonal cascade from that. One of them being your stress response will be quite high. The other will be your whole metabolic appetite hormones will be thrown out, which makes you hungrier sooner, which means you tend to eat more calories during the day, none of which serves people. So this tool is the easiest macronutrient balancing tool that I know of that is so easy to implement that sets people up for success. So it's really simple. Palm or protein, or if it's more vegan based, it'll be a fist. Fists for vegetables, you've got a cupped handful for carbohydrates and a thumb or a tablespoon for fat. And if people started thinking like that, and there's a whole document, it'll take you through it. I might even post this in our group chat so people can get in and give some people if you're full or if you're not as full, what to do at those things. And then you can start to track things over time to give people an understanding of what size meals serve them. And then we can start to build the tools in place through small bouts of consistency to help people get on top of things. Does that answer your question, Ellen?
Yes, thank you.
Amazing. Jeffrey?
I only did calorie counting once before the pandemic when I started running to lose some weight. It didn't work well at all because I was running 1 to 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, trying to do that on 1,200 calories a day. I was constantly hungry and irritable and exhausted. But what the one benefit I found was it helped me identify where all the hidden calories were, like in processed food, for example, where you think this particular thing, it looks like it's going to be healthy, but it's because it's processed, it's packed full, jam full of empty calories.
Yeah, 100%. We see that a lot. People might say orange juice or apple juice or any of the juices are pretty good. And they'll go, it should be okay. It's got a couple of servings of fruit in it, but they might have 30, 36 grams of sugar in them, which is a tremendous amount of sugar and a tremendous amount of calories, which people may not be aware of. And to be honest, I was doing the same thing when I was trying to lose weight. I was on about 1,200 calories running every day. And to be honest, I was feeling horrible and just ignoring the signs of how I felt the whole time. So like we hear a lot in media about like intuitive eating, and there's a lot of people preaching that. And it's not that I'm against that. I just don't think early on with someone's nutritional journey, they have the tools to be able to navigate what their body's intuitively saying to them. So what I like to do is give people the tools, and this might be 6 to 12 months of tools, through a whole bunch of, macros and how they feel energetically and how they feel on their plate and how it serves them day to day, week to week in accordance to their goals. Then we can move to a more intuitive eating style once people actually have the tools to be able to help themselves navigate their own journey. Because until that happens, their hormones will be fluctuating all over the place. And if I'm intuitively listening to my leptin and ghrelin, which regulate my metabolism. I don't think that would be pretty wise for people, because I'll be eating all times of the day, 6-7 times a day, just because they're out of whack. So we're trying to rebalance the hormonal structures through these tools so that we can then move to a more sustainable approach that is based on intuition. Beautiful. Anybody else, or are we Vince?
Yes. No, I was just going to mention that. I mean, for me, the calorie counting I thought was interesting only because it allowed me to kind of understand that I thought I was eating enough protein at one point. And then I discovered this amazing thing called supplements, which I didn't really understand. So, yeah, I guess the calorie counting for me was a way for me to understand what the actual macros of what I was eating was. I thought I was kind of hitting my goals, but fat intake was too much from, like I said, nuts and all that sort of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, if we were gonna use it, I would be saying this is going to be a short-term phase only. It's only going to be for 1 to 2 to 3 weeks. What we're going to use it for, because it'll be cumbersome, is some awareness around different foods that you're eating. Maybe it's more processed foods, maybe it's some high dense whole foods, whatever it may be. And then we're going to stop. We get all the awareness piece out of it so we can take the learnings and then use them for a different endeavor. And that's kind of that's where I would use it, as long as it's not going to be a negative impact on that person and their relationship with food and their mental health. And in that case, it works really well because it helps give people the awareness to set them up for future phases. But it may be 2 or 3 steps further along the journey than some people actually need. And honestly, 50% of people would really benefit from just writing down what they eat for the awareness and highlighting it red, yellow, and green to figure out what their percentages are. And then we can have a chat about where we take those. All right, Sam, I'll let everyone go because we're just about to be kicked out. But again, as always, I really appreciate everyone coming on. Like, I love helping people navigate the health and wellness. I know I found it tremendously difficult for the first few years of what I was trying to do. So that literally got me thinking, if I could just help one other person on their journey, I'd be ecstatic. And now I get to do it every single day. And I just really appreciate everyone taking the time out of their busy schedules to hopefully get some takeaways to help themselves and hopefully the people they love on their own health and wellness journeys. I hope everyone has a truly lovely day today.
Thanks, Sam.
You too. Thanks, Sam.